See, I'm in my pink leopard robe because we have just finished watching the reunion for Put a Ring on It. Um, I hope you all had a chance to watch it. So okay, all right. I apologize. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it felt like my internet just went out. I apologize. I was saying to you guys before I left that after watching tonight's reunion, I needed to bring on someone that I go to for counseling because I wanted to talk through this reunion with an expert, with someone that knows how to do this. So she has been a guest of mine before, and she's also, like I said, my personal counselor, my personal coach. She was with us on Iyanla Fix My Life when I did that show briefly, but she's an amazing spiritual counselor and just has so much wisdom. I'm excited to have her join me for tonight's conversation. Please help me welcome Coach LaTonia for tonight's conversation. Hey, lady.
Hello. How are you all?
I had a brief panic moment. I was like, oh my God, my internet just all of a sudden it was like, no.
Nope. I thought it was me, so I was freaking out with you. I see I changed positions and everything.
No, it was definitely mine. So welcome. I text you, I was like, Coach LaTonia, please, I need you to come on and talk through this. This season of Put a Ring on It has been crazy. It definitely had Twitter going, had Instagram going. But like I was mentioning before I went out, I had an opportunity to talk to both Alexia and Kai. But you and I kind of chatted back and forth in the DM before I had Kai on, because I feel like this is a lesson. This was played out on TV as a lesson for women to see. And do you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely see women looking at themselves to see if they've been Kai or they've been Alexia or both.
And tonight, I know we're going to talk about the other couples, but obviously everybody has tuned in for that relationship. Tonight, I saw two hurt women. At the end of it, they both were on different sides of the spectrum, both hurt over the lies of one man. And I applaud Egypt. I think Egypt looked amazing. She does a great job hosting these reunions, but she did a great job of being that voice of reason when it could have went the other way. When you saw Kai, storm off, and it felt like she wanted to kind of blame Alexia, and Alexia, she said, I'm 98% him, but 2% you. It could have definitely went a different way. How do you feel about that? How important is it for us as women to be able to see ourselves in our sister?
Well, it's very important, but it definitely is optional. And I think that because if you're a woman who values your relationship with women, you have an expectation that other women will value that and they will respect you. But the truth of the matter is if we're going to talk tonight, can we really talk here in terms of desperate decisions? You know how they tell you don't go to the grocery store hungry, have a little snack before you go to the grocery store, because when you go to the grocery store hungry, you end up purchasing all these things that you don't want. And I think both of them, if they were more self-aware, they would see both of them were shopping while hungry.
That's why I love you to come on. That's why I love you. That's why I love Coach LaTonia, because you're keeping it real, and that's the truth. Let's start with Alexia, because when the season opened, she mentioned, it was revealed that she and Darian had been in a 14-year off and on relationship. She did not trust him. And out of all the couples, they had been together the longest. And yet, to me, the communication between the two of them was the worst out of all the couples. They just seemed so.
I think something happened with the internet again. Can you all hear me? Those of you in the comments, can you hear me?
I can hear you. My internet is really tripping tonight.
Okay, I see you now.
Okay. Yes, 14 years off and on. Is that a sign that we're shopping in the junk food aisle?
You know what? Yeah, 14 years of indecision, backwards and forwards. Like the traumas, the trauma level that Alexia had from him having children when they were off, that was really for her responsibility to communicate. They both weren't strong communicators, but I actually saw Darian as a bit of a stronger communicator than her. Because Darian was saying that he was dissatisfied. And here's some free game, ladies. If everything that he's saying out of his mouth to you is about you, something's wrong with you, then he's not looking at you what's right about you. He's looking at the faults or the problem. So he's communicating without saying directly, well, I don't want to hurt you, or I don't want to be here. So I don't. I think both of them mirrored each other, if in terms of poor communication.
Wow. I see. I wouldn't even thought that. I thought he did. To me, Darian seemed very. They weren't at the same maturity level. Um, it seemed like he just, like he said tonight, marriage was not a goal of his. And he just seemed like somebody that wants to play and is on this show and being forced to be serious, but he didn't really want to do that. And, maybe he didn't want to do it, period. I don't know if it has to necessarily do with Alexia or he just wasn't wanting to do that at all.
I
Before
think
we
there's
go,
a lot they're not saying, though.
yes.
Do you all get that sense? Like those of you who are watching and watch this whole thing play out, I think there's a lot both of them are not saying. And the expectation of, well, I have this time in with you, so I'm not going to let you go. So it's like I'm holding you hostage and I'm bonding with you based on on all these external things, but not necessarily real truth and real compatibility. If you all remember, Alexia would get angry in the very beginning when he was telling the truth. Now, I know this is uncomfortable, but sometimes we do need to allow people space to tell us the truth so that we can hear and learn what's really going on. Because when people open their mouth, they put their brains on display.
Well, I didn't like anything his brain had to display, but you're right.
But it's information.
It was information. There was earlier in the week, we had Kai on along with another ex of Darian, and she revealed that Darian had been married, I believe is still married on paper, to someone else. So that would definitely explain why he wasn't rushing to get married to Alexia. There definitely is a lot more to that story. But anytime you guys have been together for 14 years off and on, there are 2 or 3 children that are during that time. It is a lot that you're turning a blind eye to. Wadi says, Mama Iyanla said, don't make it hard for people to tell you the truth.
That's right. That's right. We have to be able to let people tell us the truth. And what that looks like, sis, is sometimes really playing it cool. Sometimes we live in our emotions. We overreact. When the truth of the matter is, when our intuitive alarms are going off, sometimes you need to watch and listen deeper, because really the truth is there. Like he was saying it, but if you notice, she kept reacting every time he would speak his truth in the very beginning. So could you imagine? That's with a therapist there. Could you imagine what their fights were like? How toxic their fights were?
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's more to talk about. I definitely want to get into the reunion when Kai was brought out, and just that there was a lot. It was obviously Darian talked in circles tonight, and I want to talk about that. But before that, I want to go back to the other couples, because I want to ask you, Coach LaTonia. I've said with every interview, I'm going to keep on interviewing people on this show, but I do not understand why couples go on this show. And I'm going to tell you my opinion why, and you can let me know what you think. I feel like when you're in a stuck place in a relationship, if you go out on a date with someone else, we know that, there's that 80-20 rule. So that other person is the best times you usually have with a person is when you're first getting to know them. You're excited to go on a date. You get dressed up. You bring you're all dressed up. You're excited. You're flirting with him. He's all dressed up. He's flirting with you. You're not getting into the real issues. So you go on a first date with a new person. Of course, that's going to feel great. You have issues and real life things to tackle with your partner, and you're going on a first date to flirt with an attractive stranger. Of course, it's going to feel good. You know what I mean? So to me, it's not, I just don't understand how it can be really helpful to couples, because the new person is always going to be the person that doesn't have the baggage, because there's no risk, there's nothing there. So for that reason, I don't understand how this show can be productive as far as just dating other people along with your significant other. Now
I understand that we all have an emotional response based off of the filters that we have. A lot of people who are responding in the comments and in different things, even on the various platforms, are reacting through their filter, because the average person does not have the tools to be able to communicate, or many of us don't even have the tools to really know how to date. I can't even tell you how many women I have to work with to learn how to just date and not go on to a date interviewing for marriage. And so we're making an assumption that people have tools. So one of the things about this type of experiential therapy is designed to interrupt your patterns, because what happens is couples get stuck in patterns, and you basically are bonded through whatever trauma you have. You're bonded through fear, and it can feel like, well, it's a bond. Yeah, y'all know I have a little country in me, so if I say these little country things, y'all just laugh with me, right? Or just ask me, what the hell are you talking about? But I used to hear my mother say things like, a piece of man is better than no man at all. Y'all ever heard that?
I've
Some
heard
of you young people may not have heard that.
Mm-hmm.
but so when you come from core beliefs, sometimes they're unconscious, but you put yourself in a situation, from Fix My Life, we would always do that experiential part of the process. If we didn't have the experiential part of the process, you all wouldn't watch it. It would be boring to you just to see a couple come on. So a part of this is for it to be therapeutic. But the truth of the matter is, experiential therapy is intended to interrupt patterns.
Okay. Well, it definitely interrupts all the patterns. It definitely brings out the issues so that they can be addressed, and then I guess work through. So the other couples that were on the show, I'm going to start with Laronda and Sean. We saw that he had a very strong jealous streak. And I don't know if that came out before the show, but the show definitely put it on display. Yeah. And then Laronda, it seemed like she was a little disconnected from his needs. She said tonight that she was an enabler, but she also seemed to, she just seemed to, it's almost like their roles were a little bit reversed. He was the more needy one, and she was like, he just needs to get over it. I saw a lot of growth on their side. And of course, everybody loves seeing the fact of a man show emotions, but what do you think about watching their growth? And most importantly, because what alarmed me is the fact that when they came on the show, he said he wasn't ready at all. He had some financial issues he wanted to get together. And then at the end of the show, he goes ahead and proposes. I'm wondering, from your perspective, is that healthy? Because you can get caught up in I didn't think so.
They are the ones with the biggest question mark for me. Because of the work that still is out there for him. And now, one thing you said that's true is that, in a lot of relationships, we look at gender, so sometimes we think a man is supposed to have this type of expression, and a woman is supposed to have this type of expression. And in every relationship, no matter gender, there is a masculine and a feminine. Okay. So masculine energy and feminine energy can be embodied by different genders.
Okay.
It's nothing wrong for a man to express emotion. However, you picked up on some things that we don't know if in the process they went in deeper, because we only see a highlight reel. I can't tell you how frustrating it is for, working on Fix My Life, and we will be working for hours through processes that you all might see a sound bite of maybe a minute sound bite of 2 hours of work. So we really don't know how deep they went, but it to me, there are definitely some yellow flags, and I wonder if the two of them just didn't get caught up in the hype of the moment. Because when a woman is codependent or enabling, she felt very responsible for him, and that's really dangerous for a woman. And now that she's had this experience, she has a reference point of how she felt. She won't be able to erase that. when on those other dates where she had that chemistry, and she
Yeah.
said that the other brother tonight, she said he definitely would be on the roster.
Yeah. And yes, that was a good choice for the roster. So
Yeah, he's a nice pick.
yeah,
And they had a balance of energy.
Yeah.
So some of us really do. Some of us carry so much masculine energy that
Mhm,
we have to be in relationship with a healthy masculine just for our needs to be met. A
mhm,
lot of women who are very determined and focused, it can be very frustrating over time if a man if that particular part of his energy doesn't rise to meet hers at some
mhm.
point. So I don't know. I think I really feel like they got into the moment. I think
Yeah.
both couples did actually.
Yeah, I think so too. But especially when you start saying, I'm nowhere near ready. And then, you put a wedding dress in front of any female and hey, everybody is you get caught up in that hype, but then you got to deal with the reality of it after that.
Yeah.
So if you all are just joining us, of course, this is Crystal with Rolling Out and from Crystal XO, and we are doing a recap on tonight's Put a Ring on It reunion. It was extremely juicy. You guys know that the star couple of tonight, Darian, Alexia, and Kai Triangle. I have my good friend and also coach mentor, Coach LaTonia is here, and we are breaking everything down. We just talked about Sean and Laronda, and I wish them well, but I do worry about, production makes you feel like you want to do something for
That's
other
right.
people, right? It's like, this is what they want, and this is going to make for a good show. And
Yeah.
it felt like that could have been that. Let's talk about Eric and Jessica, because I did see a lot of growth
Mm-hmm.
in the two of them. I love the fact that Jessica opened up and started to see some of the things that she was doing wrong. Eric started to understand some of her touch points were based in her past trauma.
Yes.
And that was all. I thought I really enjoyed watching their journey. Talk a little bit to us about your just watching them on the screen, what you think about their journey and the future for them.
The word that comes to mind when I see the both of them is both of them were craving more.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw him, he was craving something, and it's also a clue for those of us who are watching for us to continue to do our work. He
Mm-hmm.
had a breakdown with his mother,
Yeah.
and she didn't know where she came from.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the other young, what's his name? I forgot it. The other young
Sean, with Sean.
Sean, he had a breakdown with his father.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are clues for us when they show up in a relationship, for us to look at why we're choosing who we're choosing, because sometimes we're still craving the parent or the missing parent, and so constantly in the dance of trying to get something from someone who really is not the one that's supposed to give it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wondered that because he talked this, especially this episode right before this one, when he talked about how his mother, basically, once he started making money, she was not. Basically, he was just money. He was just someone to give money. She didn't say happy birthday, to give him a card. It was just, you are there to give us money, and that obviously you could see it. That obviously hurt him, and that also is probably why he was needing so much reassurance and so much affection from Jessica, but not giving it to her the way she needed it.
Well, also, I will say Mr. Eric also is into trophy wives. He's very into outer appearance. I
Mhm,
won't say trophy wives, but he comes from a culture, an NFL culture, where
mhm.
they make decisions based on external. But inside of him, he even in the very beginning of the shows was saying I kind of would have been insulted a little bit if I were the woman. He was really talking about he wanted mental stimulation. And he
Yeah.
was saying he wasn't getting mental stimulation. But you
Mhm.
know why you chose her
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
Did
That's
you
true.
choose her for mental stimulation in the beginning, or
And
another kind of stimulation?
they talked about that. He said that all they had was a physical connection. It was very physical because he's very attracted to her. You're absolutely right. And she also kept stating that she wanted to be seen for more than just her physical. So when she would go on a date with a guy and then he would say he appreciated her mind or something other than her looks, she was just needy for that. So that is the other side of that, because so often we see couples, but I think men are visual. So we definitely see men that make decisions based on that visual. And then this is the other side of that.
Right, right. Well, but I will say Eric did a really good job of articulating what his needs were.
Mm-hmm.
And really just what he was feeling. I really respected how honest he was about how much he enjoyed how he was stimulated on the other dates.
Mm-hmm.
He could have lied. I mean, he could have just not told the truth.
Yeah.
As well. And so did she. She shared, she was stimulated.
Mm-hmm.
We are definitely, I know this, you all might not like this, but I think that we're creating a culture right now for us to look at alternative relationships.
Well, that's a whole nother show, Coach LaTonia.
We might have to do it because
we need to come back, because it's funny because I have a couple in my DMs that are that have an open relationship, and there are 3 couples, and we've been trying to schedule a reality check with them, and I think we need to, because I do think that things are changing, and we see just people are open to finding out what works for them.
Yeah.
And I think people should. I think people should find what don't know inherently that this isn't for you, but do it for someone else, and then make yourself unhappy, inevitably making them unhappy as well. So
and I think it's good for men to see that what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
I'm all for it. I
know men are watching this show based on what I heard Dr. Nicole say tonight on IG Live, that men are watching this show. So a lot of men have never had a visual that a woman has an option other than him. And there's so much assumptions in places like Atlanta, places like DC, places like, Houston, where, the men outnumber the women and all of that. But honey, we are having some equalization happening with women dating women, men dating other men. People are crossing over. So the stats look real different now. Mm-hmm. And so men tend to have this thing in many of these major cities that they are the prize.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do here. They definitely do in Atlanta. But I also think, and then I want to go to this clip from tonight with Darian and Kai and Alexia, but I also think that a lot of younger women are letting men know that that's not the case. It's like,
well, that's true, Crystal. Oh my God, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I don't know how many folks are in your comments that are millennials and now Generation Z. They do relationships totally different than Generation X. So when we're watching, and OWN tends to attract more of a Generation X audience, by the way. And so when we're watching, we're taking it through our filter, which is it's on the edge, but it's not over the edge. And the millennials and Generation Z start taking and challenging these relationship paradigms and gender paradigms. They are not doing and sex is so,
it's not. They're not
such a commodity with the, like, I saw some lives and I saw the conversations about how easy it is now just to get off with each other.
Look up. Well, I think Kai is younger. And even her response to what happened, I saw a live that she did, and she, this is not, we're dating. It's not a big deal. I wanted to do it. I don't regret. And people are like, oh, well, you should not sleep with someone else's boyfriend. And she's like, I went on the show. This is what it is. Like, it's a very different idea about sex, and if it's sacred, if it's not. So let's get into this. Darian says, I was trying to look up.
I'm fixing it. I was rushing.
No worries. We'll get it fixed. You see her IG now. This is her IG that's on her, under her name. So you guys, please make sure that you're following. Coach LaTonia, but I'm going to play this clip and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about put a ring on it.
And it was after the third date.
And how many times during that process did you guys sleep together?
More than twice.
Well, you know, there's some things that make sense here, and some things I'm piecing together, just like all of Americans.
Right.
So let me ask this. We knew that you were going on dates with this gentleman who had been in a 14-year relationship. Why not give them room to work it out, woman to woman?
I did do that.
You did that all the time.
I did do that. Listen, I gotta say something because this going out of control.
Tell another lie.
My energy really is not with you. 98% is him, 2% is you. Because at the end of the day, that was my man at the time. So all this extra energy that he's bringing, him kept trying to come back home, still trying to fix. I mean, where the does it stop?
That ended. It stopped a long time
never
ago.
did.
And you're making it look like I called you yesterday.
Wait a minute, Kai. Let's because Kai.
Timeline is horrible.
We've
No, it's not.
spoken. Let's give Kai another opportunity to speak here. Kai, do you still communicate with Darian?
We're in a relationship.
Now he's in a relationship with you. Do you feel like you were the fallback plan?
I can't really give a response to that because I didn't see what was said. I told him I didn't want him. I told him in front of Dr. Nicole, we had a whole, and I'm just being honest.
And it's on camera.
First of all, we're gonna go back to the beginning of that clip. First of all, Darian sat there with Egypt and Alexia and the rest of the country watching and said they slept together one time. If you notice, when Egypt got ready to ask Kai, she just looked at Darian like, should I tell them the truth or not?
That's right.
And immediately, you know, Egypt asked her for her, and she didn't, she obviously wasn't watching backstage because she told her truth, which was proved Darian to be a lie, just, you know, another lie, you know, that came from his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I want you just to say, because to me, like I said, watching that, Alexi's trying to make sense out of Darian, and it's not. He acknowledged that he was going to propose to Alexia, just like all the other guys. Again, going back to your point about getting caught up and it being a part of the schedule. And then when he realized that she would not take him back, then he decided to just go with Kai. But their body language to me never looked like they were connected.
Kai and
Darian.
Darian.
It seemed to me every time when she said we're in a relationship, his face, and I know it could be editing because, you know, the editing is can take different things from different places, but it looked like he just was not, he was arguing in the moment, even telling the lie that they had only slept together once, and then saying, well, you know, Alexia didn't want to take him back. So Kai comes out and says they're in a relationship and just blows off everything he said to hell. So.
Yeah, I mean, definitely lies, we're told, even when they were arguing. But that goes back to my point. When the pathology in the relationship is so bad, they're still not communicating. They were just throwing things at each other. Mm-hmm. They were still doing it. And Kai, it's a lesson. You know, Iyanla taught us this years ago. Even though they're not married, but when a man is living with a woman, and until he is not available. Right. And even for him to come right over into her bed, into her house, he's not complete. Mm-hmm. We have spiritual cords and energy that travels with us. So now what Kai doesn't know, she threw herself into their own pathology now she's all in the chaos. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you're right. I do think something was severely edited there in that scene. But what wasn't edited is the inconsistencies. But my question to women, when you've been cheated on, doesn't matter how many times. Like, no. How many lies? I remember, Crystal, one time I sat down and I don't know if I was in denial when I was in a relationship, and I wrote down how many lies that I knew that my ex had told me. Mm-hmm. That was the exercise I had to do, but I did it for me. I didn't do it to make myself right and him wrong. I had to do it to understand how many times I accepted the lies.
Yeah,
I think
big.
that's the issue.
That's big. That's big because, and that's one of the things that I thought when I interviewed Kai, and I interviewed the other lady that was a ex of Darian's, and I realized there had to be so many things that Alexia pushed down. Yeah. And even when she talked about, well, I don't like that condo, she knew. And I think that is an amazing lesson for women watching. All of you guys are watching tonight. It's not about him, because 9 times out of 10, I know when I've discovered someone is cheating or someone's doing so, I already knew. Now, I might not have known the specifics, but I knew something was wrong. That's the only reason you're looking. That's the only reason you're not at peace, is because that intuition, that energy is like something doesn't feel right, and we don't listen to it at that time. There's no way that situation could have happened to Alexia. Could have been just tricked by him for 14. There's no way, off and on or not, I don't care. No possible way that that she did not know she was being lied to over and over.
I saw people saying that Kai is hurt, but I think that Alexia is the one that is traumatized, and to a degree in shock and denial, because she kept saying tonight, had she not disclosed, we would have been engaged.
Yes.
Number one, that's a bold assumption, because if that's a bold assumption. And so why are you laughing, Crystal? Tell me.
Sorry. It's like y'all know I try to keep it, but that is funny and hilarious and true. That is true.
She kept saying that. Now she's starting to tell herself another narrative.
Yeah.
And so the truth is that she knew, like you said from the beginning, she knew. And so what happens is we betray ourselves. And let me say this is self-betrayal is harder to overcome than the lie, than the cheating. When a woman betrays herself, and this is what I write about in my book, My Juicy Rebirth. I talk about me having to heal, not from the divorce, not from the marriage. I had to heal from all of the ways that I knew that there was flashing lights that said, do not proceed.
Right. Ooh.
Or caution lights, or when I didn't ask for help because I was afraid somebody was going to judge me. Or I was in it because now we got all of this invested, but I kept moving on with question marks. And my thing, if you're in this situation, if you have to ask the question, then that is enough.
That's true.
I have to keep asking, if you got to snoop, then that's enough. If people have to come and to bring you things, that's really a violation, right? That's enough. Because now the trust is already broken. So if I have to ask, if I have to question, if I have to keep negotiating for you to do this, then people are not in a relationship at choice. We keep on trying to force people with guilt and shame and shoulds. I want to be chosen. And the moment I'm not your choice, let me go.
Let me go. Okay, but Coach LaTonia, let's talk about what it takes to be able to do that, because I know that there are a lot of women. Can we talk about the fact that there's still a feeling in our culture that if you are in a relationship, that is a safe place, and there are single women making sacrifices and putting up with ridiculous bullshit because they want to be in a relationship. I just want to be able to say that I have someone. That is we are still in a patriarchal society. That still is something that women feel their value rests upon. So you have women that will stay in things just to be in a relationship. So what do we need to have in ourselves so that we can, I don't know, and I know a lot of women, but and when you feel that knowing like something's not right, to be able to have the self-respect to leave at that point. Where does a woman have to be in her own self awareness to be able to do that? Because that's huge. Like that's huge.
I don't want to give a complex answer, nor do I want to oversimplify because there's enough people out here telling you all, oh, self-love. But it's deeper than that. Like it's many of us have seen poor examples of relationships.
Most of us have seen poor examples of relationships.
And we never deal with it though. We see it. And we don't make a choice or a decision that I want to do something different. We say that I'm not like them, but if you have no reference point or you've done nothing to invest in yourself to not be like what you saw,
right?
I think that is investment is the word, is the shortcut word that I could give. Is investment in therapy. Investment in being around some positive examples, investment in asking questions of yourself, investment in reading, investment in exploring your preferences. Because some of us go into relationships not really even knowing what we like, especially if you're churchy or religious. I will tell you probably the most corrupted relationships are the ones that are built on those shoulds and those parameters. I've been in one. Don't get mad at me. I made decisions before too, thinking that I was pleasing God, and if I please God, then God is going to cover my relationship. And so there are people who are getting married because they've been taught that to not be married is sin. Let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. So not to be married is sinful and all this stuff. And so sex out of a marriage is sin. So you go into it now. Well, I want to get married so I can have sex. That's most of Generation X.
Yeah, that's definitely not millennials. They are not with that.
No, right. That's definitely Generation X, baby boomers. So now you're in it. And now now I have a house and a mortgage. Not to mention if you're one of those boss couples. And so now you have
brand. Now it's your brand that is being affected.
Your brand.
Brand is the two of us together. We're the power couple. And if we break up, what does that look like? And that's why I also see a lot of millennials are into that. It's the he and I together, we look good. We're posting each other. We're making money. I spoil him. He spoils me. Then when you break up, you've got to replace that. So it's not even a relationship. It's a placeholder for your brand, you know?
And that's very true, Crystal. Many of the millennials are into this let's do it for the gram type of relationship.
Let's do it for the gram. I think that everything that happens is a result of the dysfunction of the generation prior, right? So I think when a lot of young women I see now that they're into having sex at their own, when they want to, not waiting for a man, they will have sex, get the head and the bread and then leave. So they're like, I watched my mama crying over this man and it was ridiculous. I got tired of seeing my mom get dogged out.
Yes.
And I'm not getting dogged out. I'm doing what's right for me. I'm getting this from him and that from him and I'm out. And it is a response to what they witnessed our generation endure.
Trauma.
Yeah.
Still trauma.
Very much.
So I've been there before too. I've made decisions and when I caught myself making decisions because of what I've seen my mother go through, I had to check it. So the next thing after investment is to get tools. We need to have tools to be able to interrupt patterns, unconscious patterns and conscious patterns. It's not okay for you just to say, well, I'm that's how I am. This is, you gotta deal with it and all of that, right? No, if you are a wounded little girl and then you have to deal with your daddy issues.
Yeah.
If you have a mother wound, you have to deal with your mother wound. Otherwise, you're bringing these things into the relationship, looking for your partner to parent you, to raise you again, or to make up for the hurt that your mother lived through, or the father that wasn't there. And so I think that many of us just don't have tools. Now, I could go in this modern society, we need tools, but we used to have tools. I do want to say that. We had tools This is just what we've seen, basically the degeneration of family and tribe and culture and being able to teach one another. If young women cannot hear from older women, and I want to give both sides. One, you have young women who have this spirit of you can't tell me anything.
Yes.
Some of them are our daughters. And some of them are pissed off with us because we've been so hypocritical, so damn self-righteous that we don't go to them and tell them, baby, here's what I did. These are the mistakes I made. These are the lessons I learned.
Right.
If I were 16 again, we don't talk straight. So what we do is we should on them. We hide it from them. And that builds resentment. And a lot of the millennials and Generation Z, they don't want to hear a thing from our hypocrisy.
That's
so
true.
I do think that we do have to do some healing even amongst women. You could see that dynamic with Kai and with Alexia.
With Kyla, absolutely. Absolutely. And we talked about this before. It is, but a lot of it is when you are making mistakes and repeat and then you're not acknowledging them.
Yes.
It's hypocrisy. And it's like, I can't respect that because you haven't acknowledged. I see through that. I see your flaws. You haven't acknowledged it. So I don't trust you. Even when we saw the Monique, made that post and was trying to reach out to young women. And the response was, no, we don't want to hear from you.
I was shocked and appalled.
I couldn't believe it, but it speaks to what you're saying. I want to show one more clip and then I want to talk a little bit more about Kai because I agree with everything you said about Alexia. I want to ask you some questions about Kai's response to this.
And it was after the third date.
Wait a minute, that's the first. Let's go to this.
Do you feel like we're in a relationship to get back at you? I know what he's doing, and yes, because when this all happened, he told Dr. Nicole, it's a mistake. I'm sorry, she won't let me come home. I just want to come home.
We were supposed to come back on the show together, and I was going to propose to her on the show. But we fell out with each other again. Yes, she knows that too.
But we do know this. We know that Darian's intention on that last date was to break it off with you, yes? So we know that when he left, his intent was to tell her and to try and work it out with her. So you gotta know at some point that you guys are together because they're not together. Because his first choice would have been her. Do you understand that? How does that knowledge make you feel as a woman?
It makes me feel a certain kind of way now hearing this, but I don't think I did anything wrong.
You didn't. You didn't.
You don't think sleeping with someone when they're in a relationship is wrong? No. And
Because
the fact
I don't owe anything to you.
I didn't say that you owed anything to me.
Okay,
I'm
so
saying
I'm
we
telling
supposed
you
to be
no.
talking about black girl magic, right?
You wasn't
Black
thinking about
girl
black girl
magic.
So you
magic when
telling-
you was calling me thirsty. You wasn't
That's
thinking
what he
about.
said.
You wasn't thinking about.
I
I don't care.
told
But
her
you were
I
talking about
wasn't
black
with
girl
you.
magic between me and you, right?
Because you slept with my man at the time.
I wasn't your man.
Now what?
At the time you was. I
Now
was
what?
with
I
you.
was-
But one thing I will say is thank you, Kai. You knew the agenda. You knew
Okay.
it. Hold on, wait. So my
Yeah,
thing
Kai
is
did
thank you
nothing
for being
wrong.
the trash lady
Alexia.
and taking my
And
trash out.
you're
Yes,
a liar.
I'm
You're
not
a liar.
Trash and insecure.
You're trash.
I'm
you are.
trash. Insecure.
Trash and insecure,
Fight with-
and you're
fight
mad.
with-
How am I
fight with
mad?
people on
Because
Instagram.
you're
How am I
mad because
insecure?
you're
Fight
mad
with fake
because
pages on
we
you're
Instagram.
mad because
That's
I
trash.
need to take a
Excuse
break.
me, guys. Excuse
I
me,
need to take a
guys.
break.
1 second. Kai, can you please come back? We're about to finish this up.
Now they good. He'll be
Okay.
liars, man.
All right.
Hold on. I'll go get her.
Done.
Hold on.
Get out of my face.
Back up. Everybody back up. Let Darian talk to
She's a liar. Man,
He lied to her. You can see he lied to her.
come here. Damn. Hey.
What manner of foolishness? what manner of foolishness?
It's set in for Kai.
Coach LaTonia, my question. Well, first of all, yes, Egypt did break it all the way down. She did. I'm such in awe of the way she handled tonight, with class, but yet did get right to the point. I want to ask you, because watching tonight, we had a chance to see Kai and Darian's dates. Watching it back, and after interviewing Kai and watching her, I felt like she leaded with
Oh,
sexuality.
she did. She led with all of her. If I were teaching in my workshop, I would say she led with the P.
She led with the P. She did. But this is what I want to ask you, because I feel like a lot of times women, I don't think this is younger or older. A lot of times women think if he's attracted to me, then he values me. And that is often not the case. So when she said, if I kissed you, they went on their first date. If I kissed you, would you like it? And she's playing with the straw with her lips. She's, very sexy woman. And he says, oh, of course I would like it. I hope you won't do that. To me, it looked like she's thinking, if he's attracted to me and she is, she's curved up, then that means that he picks me. He's open to choosing me, and he sees value over the girlfriend. And I think that's where the problem is with women. I've seen that even, we can be, it doesn't matter what age, maturity level, you see a girl on Instagram naked and she's got 18 million likes.
Absolutely.
Come on. Wearing clothes, not that many likes. So women look at us like this is what they like. And this is, Kai was all with, she stood up and she said, does this look like a counselor or therapy? She doesn't, to me, that just showed me that she doesn't understand, because she's relying
on have emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And so we see someone that has the physique and has the drive, because she's a business owner. Mm-hmm. She doesn't. And so it didn't land. There was some delayed emotional intelligence, because she could not process that on her own. Yes. As long as she was getting what she wanted, then it was cool. Mm-hmm. The moment he showed up the same way he showed up for Alexia, she responded the same way Alexia. Basically, y'all, all we're doing is seeing everybody's choosing the same person, a different pair of panties, a different pair of jocks. The same. And what I see for Alexia is she's so angry because she didn't choose anything else. Sometimes we're angry with ourselves because we stay, I'm investing in you, I'm investing in you, and that type of thing. But yes, Kai did lead with all sexuality. But hey, he responded. Something
they usually do respond. That doesn't fail very often. But I guess what I'm thinking is necessary to point out to women, because there's that conversation of, well, he told me this, well, he told me that. It doesn't make, just because he's attracted to you does not mean he sees value there. He sees something that he wants, and it's very temporary. So like you said, after that need has been taken care of.
Right. After he nuts. Then what? You get, the old people say you get up with a wet ass and a broke purse. So you got a wet ass and nothing to show for it.
It ain't so. Not a broke, empty purse and
dry purse, wet ass, dry purse.
All bad.
And even if your purse is full of money, because we do have that happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Right now out here, we have the bag. As long as he's getting me the Birkins, as long as he's getting me a car, and then you have another segment of women who totally are like, I have all of that. Mm-hmm. So now the bar is raised. There's an imbalance happening in our culture. But man, I mean, I wonder if Kai is even coachable.
I think she is. I had a great conversation with her that was different than some of the other conversations. And I think it's because I respected her as a woman, and she appreciated that. And she was very honest. I think that she is coachable, but I think what I see in Kai is someone that's been hurt a lot, and she does have her own business. There's a lot of, because that's the one thing that the younger generation did get from our generation. Yes. I know how to go get it, but everybody wants to be loved. So you can go get the bag yourself, or you can get his bag. But as we see with Eric and Jessica, even when she was getting his bag, he still wasn't satisfied, and she wasn't either. Even though he's ex-football player. And all that looks great, but at the end of the day, there's nothing there besides you look good. I got money. I'm a pro football player, but what else is there after that? And Kai, she showed that she has a business, actually really brilliant business. I think it's Last Minute Makeup. Very brilliant to have women come in here in Atlanta. Everybody wants to have the lashes and the contour on, but she still wants to be loved. And I feel like a lot of times women feel like if a man chooses me over the other woman, that shows my value. And
absolutely. It's a false positive.
It's a false positive.
And it doesn't last for a long time. Someone said that she has a right to be bitter. And yes, she has a right. And that's the thing, you know, we feel like we have a right to make other people wrong. And it's so what that does is delay the process of being able to say, why did I attract this? Why did I accept this? Not so that you can feel bad, but so that you can make new choices.
Well, I'm going to tell you for the bitter comment, I had a therapy session, and the therapist gave me a great analogy of being bitter and resentment, bitterness and resentment. And they asked if you had someone that came, your next door neighbor came and threw trash in your yard, and you got up like, wait a minute, why is this trash? You're angry about the trash in your yard. You go out and pick up that bag, and instead of throwing that bag away, you bring that bag in your house. And that bag stinks up your house. And it's like, well, they threw it over here, but you brought it inside your house and you're allowing it to sit there. And at this point, the neighbor has gone on about their business. And I remember that because at the time I was dealing with being very bitter from a very, very bad breakup, and he had moved on. He was unbothered. I was the only one hurt and nursing it and angry and unable to give new people a great opportunity to get to know the real Crystal, because I was holding on to this bag. And I realized it really was my responsibility to let go of that hurt. So I don't think anyone has a right to be bitter. You can choose to, but in order for you to move forward, you're going to have to make a decision to let that go.
And some of us came from some bitter older women. There, if we were to really assess some of the women in our family, were they happy, y'all? Were they living in their pleasure? Were they living in their worth? So did you have a reference point, or were they surviving, trying to take care of you? There are some mothers who made decisions to stay with men because economically and culturally, the advantage, and I want to give our elders credit. Some of them were making decisions to hold the family down and hold the family together so that their children wouldn't have to experience certain things. And then those children live in the house watching the suffering, watching the bitterness, watching the angry words, absorb that. Now we take it and we go into relationships. So when I say pathology is generational, it's really a choice. The bitterness is, you can be angry, but once it gets to bitterness, it means that the anger has sat too long. Now you or the hurt has sat too long, or the unforgiveness of self has sat too long, and we need somebody to be wrong. How many of y'all in the comments are still pissed off with your baby daddy? But because he's not paying child support, or you invested in him, and so and the punishment cycle begins to take effect, and you feel righteous about it. Well, if he's not in his child's life, and so these types of things we're doing in these relationships, never saying, okay, what do I need to do something different? And I know women do a lot more workshops and talking and that type of thing, but there are men who are starting to do the kind of work that we see our brothers doing on Put a Ring on It. Some of them have never even had conversations like this with their own mother. If you don't have a mother who's self-aware, how are you going to be able to look at yourself? And I'm not putting in what I'm saying is our parents don't have tools all the time to be our therapists.
Especially when we look at where our community has been.
Yeah.
Some of our mothers didn't even have an opportunity. When were you going to go get therapy in between trying to balance?
Exactly.
That. So I love the fact that we are having these conversations.
Yeah.
I see men having them as well, slowly, but they are coming. So I want to ask, people are saying about the bitterness, and maybe Alexia is still talking to Darian. I do think that at a soul tie at that level, because that has become familiar, and it's very easy to go back to what's familiar. It's a lot more difficult, and it may not even have anything to do with him. It's just familiar, and a lot of times we're afraid to step out on our own. That seems to be the issue of just being alone. Darian doesn't want to be alone. Darian wants to go from one, well, you said no, so I went over here. Like, there's no self-awareness of I'm a grown-ass man. I look a little crazy right now. Let me just take a moment. Let me take a moment. He
never did the work, though. If we look back at the shows, Darian was so good at redirecting the attention with these shocking statements. He never did. Do we know what Darian's relationship was with his mother or father? Do we know what his faith walk is? Do we know any of his childhood issues? So now, Crystal, my question is for the viewers. Do you all start to wonder about the agendas of people? Because I can tell you on Fix My Life, on our team, we had to filter through people coming through with agendas just to be on TV. After a show starts to get into its second and third season, and with social media and people out there, why did you come on this show? I think really, is anybody else asking that question? Is it just us?
I haven't seen anyone ask it tonight, but definitely earlier on. And we do know, we haven't talked about the fact that Darian is someone that has been in the celebrity lifestyle around it. He is, he has had a certain amount of success as a hip hop artist in film. They have some great records.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
But that a lot of times you become, and I know this from just, being a publicist and working with celebrities, you can become addicted to that, being on television, being in front of people, that energy, and he can feel, I did see a live, and I know you and I talked about this earlier this week, where he was showing how much money he had, and in a shoebox, he had about a little over $20,000 in a shoebox, and he was wanting. It was important, out of everything that's being said about Darian, it was important for him. The most important thing for him to let people know is that he had money, and it was in the hundreds. They were hundreds, and he took them out of the shoebox, and he wanted to show. So that said to me that he is still very much living a rap in a rap music video. Like, this is not. So that could be motivation, because you're right. We have no idea we don't even know who Darian is, at all.
When you live that, when you live that lifestyle, it does become addicting for a lot of them. So now you're out there, right? So what's the agenda of people who come in and they don't do the work, right? They come here, you put all of this stuff out here, and you leave unchanged.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be possible for you to come and not know that the process is so deep, because most people haven't experienced therapy or a workshop or something. So anytime, like, when we're talking, you say I'm deep, but it's stuff that I just talk about all the time. But with people who don't talk about themselves, they don't talk about their stories, it can seem like the work is heavy.
Yeah.
We didn't see him do any of that work.
He didn't do it.
And we really didn't get a chance to see Alexia do a whole lot. What's her background? What influenced her to continue to choose? We don't even know why they chose each other. Why were they attracted to each other? Because those are the questions that can help a person who's in that situation. I think that's why so many people are triggered.
Yeah.
They don't have resolve.
They don't have resolve.
All of the Alexias in the comments on Instagram going off, all of the Kais in the comments going off, because y'all don't have closure either.
That was what I wanted to. I want us to close this out by you sharing, like, what, because when I talked to Kai, a lot of the comments were either sympathetic to her and understanding her situation, or Alexia's. And that tells me that, and I think every woman, I always say this on this show, every woman has been in one of those positions or both. anytime you see a woman going through it on television and looking, it touches you because I've been
Yeah.
I've been that woman. So how can women that are in Alexia's situation get the strength? What are maybe 3 tips that they can do to get the strength, get the resolve to break that cycle, because that relationship has become a dysfunctional yet comfortable cycle for them?
The first thing, Alexia, if you're watching, the very first thing that a good therapist will tell you to do is to stop all communication. She needs to cease and desist with all communication with Darian. It's no more asking why. It's no more of those types of
friends. We're just friends.
So whether it's 2 weeks, 30 days, 90 days, because that's when you're going to feel your addiction to a person. Your codependency is going to be exposed, because if you remove it, you'll be able to hear. Now, the first thing that you hear is going to be the monkey mind. It's all of those feelings and emotions. And Dr. Nicole says it beautifully. Feelings are not facts. So now if you let the feeling come up, the grief come up, the shock come up, the horrification come up, even the anger and the rage, let it come up. A lot of women do not allow themselves to feel anymore. And when we do not allow ourselves to feel, you are cutting yourself off from your feminine. Your feminine is where your divinity lives. Your feminine, and when you go right into your head, you are further disconnecting yourself from your divinity. A lot of times we want to understand it intellectually, and this is not school, and this is not an institution. You have to be able to go within yourself. Because when it's time now for you to be able to feel again, right? You can make the distinctions between this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel right. But when you cut the feelings off and you only feel one emotion, another tip. Many of us feel the same 5 emotions or 3 emotions the most frequently. We all have a go-to emotion, and that's not always the real one. So just because you have a go-to emotion, and if you have to be able to move beyond the go-to emotion, the go-to response.
Wow. That's we talked about that on that episode that we were on, Iyanla, because I realized I had done that. When you go through a very hurtful situation, especially in today's society, you don't want to, for me, I was like, I don't ever want to feel like this again. And I went into a place that was very, I'm going to work. I'm going to focus on getting money. I'm going to cut off the feeling. So I think I told you when I initially talked to you, when we first, were talking about the Yana show, I could go out with someone and really be interested in them, and then be interested in me, and something happened, and I just changed, and I could cut them off with I had lost the ability to feel because I was hurt, and I didn't want to do that again. And I see a lot of young women, they don't even, they enter the dating scene without, it's like, I'm not emotional. And when you do that, then when there's a situation where you would be open to feeling, you have to go back and rediscover that, because you have taught yourself to deny your own feelings. And that does not serve you well. It serves you. It's like using a crutches when you don't need them anymore. It's like, I am cut off and numb, but I don't want to be anymore, and that took a lot of therapy.
So it's just like, when the nerves come alive again in something that's been nerve, how if you sit down too long and your foot goes to sleep, when you get ready to stand up, it's like, oh my God, you freeze. You don't just move on the foot, but then you learn how to shake it out, hit it if you have to. Sometimes we have to do that with our own emotions and because our emotional intelligence is a pathway into feminine intelligence. When we have feminine intelligence, There is a place inside of your womanhood where you become a gift to yourself. You become the well that keeps on giving, because you don't have to, you're being fed. A lot of us are getting into relationships with our cup already empty. We're making desperate decisions based off of unconscious beliefs. We're operating in beliefs that we haven't questioned. We're not looking at preferences that we have, because we haven't given ourselves a chance to sometimes explore, right? So definitely for someone like Alexia, who has had the money, who has had the exploration, but at the same time, what is a house? A house is not home if no one's there. So what about all those years that she hoped and wished and prayed for? Those are the things that she's going to have to forgive herself for. And that's what I would close with.
Yeah.
Getting to real forgiveness and self-forgiveness, and self-forgiveness precedes forgiveness of someone else. You must, if you are focusing on forgiving the act of another person, you are out of spiritual order. You are first cause. A woman in her feminine power operates in universal law, in earth law, on she's first cause. Now you got to come and connect with me to learn more, because that's true law, what I'm talking about. But many of us are not operating on any of that, because we haven't been taught that. We don't know what it means to be first cause. We don't know what it means to be first cause with our children, much less with our men, because we think that men are the prize. And that's where patriarchy has come in, to make men feel like they are the prize. And when you shift into your feminine intelligence, you know you're the prize, and you can only attract other rewards. I'm not saying that the man is not a prize, but let's at least let him be a reward.
A reward. Someone asked real quick, Coach LaTonia, what are the 5 emotions that people are most likely to go to just on default?
The most defaulted emotion that most of us go to is anger.
Yeah.
If not outright rage. Blame. And blame can look like attack. The other one, blame can also look like projection. Nah, it's you. Like we saw Alexia say, but you just lied. So you start to become now a monitor to point out every right or wrong, because you're trying to justify you did wrong. So now the blame is there. And blame then keeps you stuck oftentimes in shame or guilt. And the shame and guilt can be set in whether you stay, whether you go or not. Because when you stay and you know you should go, you can oftentimes feel guilty and ashamed. So guilt and shame are cousins, and it will keep us stuck and in a pattern repeating the same thing. So like sisters, there are a lot of sisters, y'all don't talk about this a lot, but a lot of y'all are out of control with your mouth, because you are so angry.
That's what somebody said. Kelly said, I choose the attack emotion. I see that. We saw that with Kai. The first thing she get all that get off me and throwing. If you turn on your TV and the Love and Hip Hop or any of the basketball, all that out of control is the anger.
Yes.
Which is really a deflection, which a lot of times if you watch it, and I won't call names, but you see women, grown women wanting to fight other, and then it immediately turns to, then it's almost like you see a broken little girl. Like I see an angry, foul mouth, out of control, and then as soon as someone flips that mirror, it's like I crumble to a broken little girl, and it's like, sis, the anger and the rage, it is a defense. It is a defense.
And so the anger, the rage, the projection, the shame, the guilt. And then of course, sadness is usually the real emotion underneath all of them, but it takes us so long to get to the point of sadness.
Yeah.
And many of you'd be surprised at the number of women who don't even cry anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think that we have all taken on, this generation, the narrative that we see is women have much more masculine energy. So you see women that will go, because women back in the day, our mothers and grandmothers, they would be sad, they would get quiet, and they would not tell anyone their pain. Women today, I'm angry, I'm loud, I'm shouting in your face because I'm angry at the fact that my mother never spoke up for herself. My grandmother never spoke up for herself. So I'm angry. But at the end of that, the sadness is seen as weakness. And I think a lot of times that feminine energy is seen as weak. So we're all out here with masculine energy. And I've had conversations with girlfriends. It's like, it's hard to dial that down once you've been operating in that, because that feels like, okay, this is safer. I'm just going to act like I don't care. I'm going to act like I only care about getting money.
Yes,
I only care about my business. And it's difficult to
the boss B image is a farce. It's an illusion. It just is a cover up and a compensation for feeling undercompensated. Most of us are trying to compensate still trying to compensate for where we felt undercompensated.
Yeah.
So therefore we're operating in not enough and trying to get more. So the boss B, she usually is the one who's been the most cut off. And so she's in survival mode. She's in grind mode. And so when we're in this grind mode, we're grinding our nurturing organs.
Yeah.
That's why we see it show up in our bodies. We see it show up in our relationships. And I will say, I wish that I could support Alexia because they also had a sexual breakdown. So if there's all fighting in your relationship and all intellect in your relationship and there's no sexuality, it is a setup for a continual breakdown.
Yeah.
And it was said several times, withholding sex is a form of violence to your own relationship with pleasure. However, so if you have to withhold sex because you don't trust someone, should you be with them?
You should not be with them. Yeah, you should not be with them.
So we have to have a healthier relationship with pleasure and the power of the P from the full cup and not the power of the P from the empty cup, from the manipulative cup.
From the manipulative cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. As always, thank you so much, Coach LaTonia. And thank you, Marty. I do not ever, I get into the conversation and I'm always intent on, I'm thankful to everybody that has subscribed, and I'm always trying to bring you guys great content. So please, if you have not subscribed, make sure that you do.
Some good questions in here. Good grief.
Yeah, I'm there, and they went so fast.
I see a few of my tribe members in here, and one of them just asked, is it normal not to know which emotion you're feeling? Yes, it's very normal not to know which emotion you're feeling. And when you get in the presence of someone that loves you and is nurturing you, sometimes it is your lover, your partner, who helps you to feel again and become aware that you are cut off from it. I just had a young woman who told me just the other day, she's a junior in college, that her boyfriend told her, you need to get some help. Why? Because he had a healthy emotional intelligence. He had a reference point, and he had to tell her that's not healthy.
This man,
and nobody had ever really told her that but her mom performed like that. So yes, it's very easy not to know, because many of our girls and young women are going from 0 to 100.
They are. They
don't have a range of being able to graduate through the emotions. Why? Because who taught them? Who modeled it for them? Especially if they were latchkey children and the mama was trying to get the bag, which is nothing wrong with that, but
that leads to survival and not, that survival relationship with life in itself doesn't allow you to be in a healthy space, because it's like, and that's a very different place. But I appreciate, Coach LaTonia, you always come with such good advice and such.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, I wanted this to be something, because I feel like women are tuned in, and a lot of the women see themselves in these shows, and so having a healthy discussion on what's the root causes, I think, is much more important than gossiping and tearing everybody down. So people are saying, please continue. What I do want to do, I know we're about out of time now, but Coach, we got to come back and talk about the definition of relationships, because I want to have that couple on, the three couples that are advocates for people finding the kind of relationships that is best for them. And so I want to talk through that in a healthy space. In a healthy space. But thank you so much for joining me tonight.
So
Please
much.
let me know where they can find your book and more from you, where they can sign up and hear more from you.
I know I'm a bad promoter because I should have had my book ready. So because I got on my short nightgown to be, and if I get up, y'all gonna see all of my hips and everything. But you can go to LaToniaTaylor.com. If anybody is from my tribe, if you can put it in the comments, LaToniaTaylor.com. And my book, My Juicy Rebirth, will pop right up on the screen. When you order the book directly from me, I give you a 50% off to the Power of the P, the masterclass that I have, where we go into a real raw conversation about what is P, what is PUSSY in a sacred place. And so go to LaToniaTaylor.com, and this is my IG account as well. You can go to the link in my bio. And I love having these conversations because I hope that I can leave an impact, that we can let it be juicy on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be juicy.
Let there be juiciness. Absolutely. You do not get more in your feminine energy than that. So you all please follow Coach LaTonia. Please make sure, like I said, that you have subscribed. I will be back on Monday. I know it's Labor Day, but you guys do not want to miss Monday at 8 p.m. I have Pastor Cal from Married at First Sight.
I love him.
You got to tune in. He's talking about his book, Marriage is Not for the Weak. And we're also going to talk to him about this current season of Married at First Sight. So I will see you guys on Monday at 8 p.m.
Thank you, Crystal. You're doing an amazing job, by the way.
Thank you so much. And you're going to come back next month, and we're going to talk about these open relationships and see what works for some.
Let's do it.
All right. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend, ladies. Love you.